Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 10, titled Claimed. This episode had three separate stories. The two main stories were pretty much Rick's story and then sort of Glenn and Tara's story with Abraham and, his group. But the first story in the episode was, picking up from the first, I guess, the mid-season premiere, where Michonne meets with Rick and Carl, and then, you know, or not Rick, but Carl and Michonne are together. They're sitting at a table, they're talking and laughing and stuff, and they're bonding. They're getting close together, and Carl mentions how rather than soy milk, he'd rather have all these different types of milk, and then he mentions Judith's formula, and it kind of it takes all the happiness out of him, and he kind of freaks out. And Michonne kind of she tries to bring him back, and she knows it him doing it, he screwed himself up. So she tries to build him up when they go out and gather supplies and stuff, and Rick stays at the house because she tells him give it one more day, rest up. You got into the crazy fight with the governor, just calm down, rest. We'll go out, find supplies, come back, and then tomorrow we can figure out if we're staying here, if we're headed to a different house or whatever we're gonna do. But just relax. So they go to this house, and then she's trying to get Carl to laugh, and it's not working. And then she kind of hints at the fact that she has a kid, and then when Carl asks, she flat out tells him, I used to have a son. And so she kind of plays this game with them where they clear a room, they do a question, and it helps them bond, and it helps Carl sort of get over his own problems because he's so curious about something that no one in this series probably ever would have even guessed, and that is of course that Michonne had a son. And it was a really good part of the episode. I really enjoyed it how they did bond together, and then there's the part where they're in the hallway, and Carl goes to search another room, and Michonne sees the picture with the blood and stuff on it, and she goes through the bathroom and finds the kids' rooms. And when she gets to the little girl's room, she sees like all the family members in the bed and the one woman in the chair, and they all, I would assume she killed them in the bed, and then she killed herself. And it affects her, and she knows that of course she can't let Carl see that, because even though it's not a baby, it's still a family that's been torn apart like his has, where it used to be him, his dad, and his mom, and then when his mom passed away, that's when his sister was born, and then as far as they know, she's also gone. So she, Michonne took the initiative to not let him see that, and she even lied to him when he said, like there's a baby in the room, and she just quickly said like it's a dog. And it was just a really good scene. Like they were both affected in different ways, but it was really good that they could bond sort of over that loss. It was this, in a sense, it was the same loss because it was a baby, but of course, it's a lot different for Michonne because she lost her child, as where Carl lost his sister instead. But it was a really good opening to the episode, and it was cool to see them bond. And then we get into the fact that Rick at the house alone isn't exactly safe because this group of people kind of just barge into the house. They're fighting each other and stuff. One guy kills like two people, so I don't know if these guys are gonna end up being main characters or not, or anything like that really. But they like fight on the first floor. He kills a guy, and then another guy comes upstairs and gets on the bed, and Rick's freaking out. He's trying to he takes the water bottle and stuff, like don't leave anything on the counter that could say someone's still here. So he's hiding under this bed, and then the second guy comes in. He fights the first guy, kills him, and it's just crazy how Rick is in this house. He has no weapons because he gave his gun, to Carl. And it was a really good part. That was probably my favorite part of the episode. I knew, of course, he'd survive, but it was just really cool to watch. And it was really intense to see, is he gonna get caught, or is it gonna lead to some sort of crazy hostage situation where he ends up getting saved by Michonne and Carl, or is he just gonna find a way to like kill these guys? And eventually he does kill one of the guys because he runs in the bathroom, and the guy's just like stunned, like who the heck is this? And then fortunately he beats that guy, and he gets an Uzi, so now he has a gun too, and he gets a jacket, and he climbs out the window and heads out. And then fortunately he's able to save Michonne and Carl from walking to the house and basically getting killed. Because who knows? Odds are, considering those people were so crazy they would kill each other. Like one guy killed the guy over a bed. They would easily have killed both of them, and of course Rick if they came back, because they would have just took whatever they had. But it was a good ending. I mean, I'm curious to see if any of those guys will kind of return in some way. Like, who knows, what other characters could end up crossing their path. Like, we might get to see the guy who was sitting on the porch, because I think he's the only other person they showed. So it was like the guy who died, or I guess both guys who died, the guy in the bathroom, the guy in the bedroom. Um, they sort of showed the guy who, like the second guy who slept in the bed. I don't believe they like flat out showed his face, unless that happened to be the guy on the porch, which I don't think it was. But they might have shown him to, so we know like if those characters come back, we'll be like, oh, we got to see that one guy for like a good minute, so we know he's a part of that group where they were in Rick's house, or for in a way. But that was a great portion of the episode. I really enjoyed that. And then in the end, they of course find the sign that's going to lead them to Sanctuary or Terminus, and now they're headed that way. And of course, that's just going to lead them, right to find a baby Judith, which would be a great episode. I'm excited to see that, even though it's like obviously they're going to find out. It'll be a really one of those heartwarming scenes which we just don't get in this show. It's either tension or sadness because somebody died. So it'll be good to have, to know that that's going to be one of the episodes. It might take a while before they actually get to Terminus, and they might not even have that scene in this season. It could be, next season, because I'm sure they'll kind of end it right when they get there. But hopefully it'll be this season, and they'll have that heartwarming, piece in this season, and it'll be good to see. But they're headed to Terminus, so they'll meet up with some other characters too. And then we have our third story where Glenn and Tara are with Lieutenant or Sergeant, or Lieutenant Sergeant, I don't know, but Abraham and his people, and they find out, the guy with the mullet, who's like the smart one, he has the cure, or he at least knows, what's happening and what caused the zombie virus, or, zombie outbreak. And of course it's classified because it's television and, they can't say that. But they're headed to Washington, and then this guy who's the smart one, he's firing off bullets and he messes up the truck. Now the scene when they're walking and they zoom in on Abraham, and then they zoom out and they focus on the mullet guy. I can't tell if he was smiling or like smirking, or if that was just his face, because it seemed like sort of a smirk, maybe not, and I'm just not 100% sure. And they could have, of course, told him to make that face just to make it sort of ambiguous, so that we do have to guess, like, is it a smirk or is it just the way he looks? But I'm definitely excited to see how things play out. I don't know if they're ever gonna even, get to telling other people what the cure, or what, caused the outbreak, and I'm sure they will. And that could even be the season finale, where it's like, what happened, and then it's like this. But excited to see how these characters play out. I haven't gotten to them. If you saw my last review, I just got the Compendium 2. So sometimes when I watch it, since I don't actually get to see the episode on Sunday, I'll watch it, and instead of fast forwarding through commercials, I'll actually read the comic and then go back to the show. And I'm about to watch The Talking Dead, and whenever the commercials are on for that, I read as well. And I actually don't read during the show, because that way I can get to my review. But during The Talking Dead, I will read between commercials. So I'm excited to see, or to actually get up to the Abraham character and his group, because I want to see the parallels and the differences between them in the show and them in the comic. And even if their story is the same, because some of the characters in the show aren't the same character, or aren't in the comic, and vice versa. So I'm excited to see if their story is even the same story, and it probably is, but there might be of course slight variations to it. But love this episode. I like the 3-story aspect of it. I like how the first part of it was sort of solitary. They didn't spend a lot of time on it. It was just, she brought him back, or Michonne brought Carl back to reality in a good way, I guess. by sort of giving him some information that he didn't know about, and they were able to bond, again, and she was able to, make him smile and make him laugh and stuff. And you got to see that at the end of the episode because she, when in the beginning of the episode when she took like the cheese whiz or whatever, she wanted to give him some, and he was in his cold state, but at the end of the episode, he did the same for her, so he was opened up, by the end, and even though he had said something in the beginning of the episode that hurt him, she was able to kind of, like I said, bring him back to reality in a good way, and now he's a bit more calm, and he'll be able to, work things out a little bit better. But excited for next week's episode. Loved all the stories for this one. Really excited for next week because it's Daryl, and I cannot think of the other girl's name. Beth, yeah. So it's those two, and I'm excited to see just what they deal with because they're the only two where it's just the two of them. I mean, the second smallest group is Maggie and the other two characters, Maggie, Sasha, and then the doctor guy. But Daryl and Beth, it's just the two of them, and they always seem to be in the most trouble out of all the different characters. Like, they run into the most zombies, it seems. So I'm really excited to see, who they may or may not meet and just what crazy antics they get into. But for this one, comment below, let me know what you guys thought of it. Favorite parts, least favorite parts. And just tell me, since, everyone's kind of getting funneled towards Terminus slash, Sanctuary, who do you guys think is going to actually get there first, and how do you think that's going to, play out in the series? Of course, if you do read the comics, you might know. Well, obviously, if you read the comics, you do know if you're caught up. But comment below and let me know, and thanks for watching.